Hello everyone, my name is Gabriela Perez and I am an educator here at the Bruce Museum. I am pleased to bring to you today Digital Bruce Beginnings, a program for children ages 3 through 5 and their caregivers. Today's theme is all about stories. We will visit an exhibition, read a book, and talk about some imaginative play and hands-on activities you and your adult can do at home. I hope you enjoyed today's program. Before we get started, I will give you a quick overview of our exhibition, Fun, No Fun, Children's Book Art by James Stevenson. James Stevenson was an American illustrator and cartoonist, mostly known for his work in The New Yorker magazine. Stevenson was a witty and prolific artist who created hundreds of children's books that provoked fits of giggles with silliness voiced in an honest, simple, and gentle way. This exhibition presents all of Stevenson's children's book art from the artist's archives, exploring the seasonal delights to which children of all ages can relate. Today, we will be talking about stories, but most specifically, the parts of a story. There are typically 6 parts to a story: the title, the setting, the characters, the plot, the conflict, and the theme. The title is the name of a book, normally describing or hinting at the book's overall story. Then, there is the setting, or where the story takes place. Despite what many may think, the setting does not necessarily have to be a physical location. The setting can also refer to the time period in which a story takes place. In other words, the where and the when. Next up, we have characters who the things are happening to. Characters will actually vary depending on the story you are reading, and the characters can be humans, animals, or objects, or completely uncommon and unique. Despite this, characters are the ones who carry the story and are quite fun to create. The plot is the events that happen in a story. The plot itself is made up of 5 key components. Let's think of the plot as a roller coaster, and I've created a visual to help us understand. At the bottom, we have an introduction that introduces us to the story, followed by the rising action that puts into motion the story. At the top, we have a climax, which is the most important detail in the story. It is then followed by the following action, which brings us to the solution. The conflict is the problem in the story. Every story has a conflict, even if it's a small one. Without a conflict, there is not a story. Lastly, we have a theme. A theme is the overall message of a story or the lesson to be learned from the book. I will now show you an illustration by James Stevenson titled Grandpa's Too Good Garden. What do you see in this illustration? Who are the characters? What are they doing? Pause this video, explore the image, and discuss your guesses with your adults. I will see you back here in just a moment. Now that we have learned about stories, let's read a book about a young boy who wants to write a story. Today's book is A Squiggly Story by Andrew Larsen. My sister loves to read. Big words and little words. Page after page, word after word. My sister loves to write. Big words and little words. page after page, word after word. Sometimes I pretend I can write too. Big letters and little letters, swirl after swirl, squiggle after squiggle. "What are you doing?" I asked one day while we were sitting at the kitchen table. "I am writing a story." "I wish I could write a story." "You can. It's easy." "How?" "I know my letters, but I don't know any words." "Write what you know." Every story starts with a single word, and every word starts with a single letter. Why don't you start there, with a letter? So I get my crayons and pencils and a pad of paper, and I start to write. I start with a single letter. It's an easy letter. That's a good beginning. Now what? What's going to happen? How should I know? It's your story. You're the boss. What? I'm stuck. What happens in my story? I draw a circle. It's a soccer ball. Then I write another letter. It's a U. I say to my sister, "I'm playing soccer with you." "Great. Where are we playing soccer?" "Maybe we're playing on the beach," I suggest. We've never played soccer on the beach. So I do a bunch of dots for the sand on the beach. Then I make a bunch of V's, big V's and little V's, wave after wave in the ocean. Now what? What do you mean? You have a beginning. Now we're in the middle of the story. Something else has to happen so we can get to the end. I'm stuck again. I start doodling. I doodle another V, but this time I doodle it upside down. Oh no! It's a shark! And it's getting closer and closer. I flip the page to get away from the shark. The next day, I bring my story to school. It's my turn for show and tell. That means I get to sit in Mrs. Sign's chair. Everyone else sits on the carpet, ready to listen. Last night, I started to write a story. It's sort of squiggly, but here goes. Once upon a time, there was a brother and a sister, and they loved to play soccer. One day, they had an idea. They decided to play soccer on the beach. So they went to the beach and played soccer. Then they noticed something coming towards them in the water. It was a shark, a real-life shark, and it was getting closer and closer, and it was getting bigger and bigger. And that's as far as I got. That's wonderful. What happens next? What about the shark? What about the brother and the sister? I don't know. I'm stuck. Class, does anyone have an idea? Jake waves his hand in the air. I do. Maybe one of them kicks the ball and it hits the shark in the head. Then maybe the shark bites the ball with its big, pointy shark teeth. Aaliyah offers another idea. What if the shark's name is Squiggles? What if Squiggles is a vampire shark? What if she invites the brother and sister to ride on her back? And what if they become a vampire family and live forever? Vampires can't swim. Everyone knows that. Of course they can swim. Vampires can do anything. But it's my story, and I don't want vampires in my story. If I was writing a story, I'd have lots of vampires. Then you should write one, but I like yours. That night, after dinner, I sit down beside my sister. Her face is buried in a book. I've been thinking about my story all day, and I still don't know how to end it. Remember, you are the author, she says without looking up. You can do whatever you want. So I get my pencil and I start with a bunch of stars. Then I add a few exclamation marks. My sister told me exclamation marks make things exciting, and she's right, it is exciting. I add a couple of slanty lines. What's going on? Asked my sister, looking up from her book. It's nighttime. The stars are out, the shark has gone away, and we decide to take a walk on the beach. That's when we discover this giant rocket ship. That sounds cool. Then what happens? We hear a voice and it counts down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off. Not yet, I say, adding one more squiggle. Just before the rocket blasts off, we spy a Martian looking out through a window. The Martian invites us to climb aboard. That's a great ending. Now I have an idea for my next story. It's going to be about a boy who climbs aboard a rocket ship and takes a trip to Mars. And I think I know just how to begin. That was a fun book. I am glad our young friend was able to finish his story. Now that we have visited one of the museum's exhibitions and read a book, let's talk about some activities you and your adult can do together to stretch your minds and imaginations. For our first activity, I would like for you to create your own story. Think back to the 6 parts of a story we discussed earlier in this video. To make things a little easier, create a story planning grid. Using a white sheet of paper, draw 4 squares, leaving a large space towards the bottom of the paper. Here's the story planning grid I created. In the first square, write the setting of your story, followed by the characters of your story, the conflict, the theme, and at the bottom of the page, you will write your own story's plotline. I drew a miniature version of the visual I showed earlier and would like for you to do the same. Once you are done with your story's outline, feel free to share it with your adult. Another activity you can do is try to identify one of the 6 parts of a story in either a book, TV show, or movie. feel free to play with a friend or with an adult. For our last activity, you and your adults can create and develop a story together. In order to begin this activity, your adult will start by saying, "Once upon a time." From there, take turns building your story. When you reach the end, don't forget to say "Happily Ever After." Thank you for participating in Digital Bruce Beginnings. If you would like to share with us what you've created during this program, with your adult's permission, upload your image using our hashtag #BruceMuseum. For more digital content or more information about the Bruce Museum, please visit our website www.brucemuseum.org. Bye, friends.